What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of the 5 Takeaways, where we're going to take a look at the weekend loss against Wolves at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and see what 5 things we can take away from the game. And let's start off with the first takeaway, which is a Bentancur debut.
So he was, I think Rodrigo Bentancur was possibly one of the few bright spots we can take away from the game, I felt, during the game. It was a first start under Conte, first start for Tottenham, and I think in the middle of the park he actually wasn't too bad compared to some of the other players. He had 2 key passes, including one through ball to Son, who should have done a lot better with his effort. He won 5 out of 6 aerial duels. He won 9 out of 12 ground duels. He also made 3 tackles and completed 2 out of 2 long passes. So not spectacular, but a solid debut, I felt, from Bentancur.
Yeah, it says a lot when you say he was one of our bright sparks and he wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
That's what says a lot. But no, I was look, I think there was good moments and bad moments in there from Bentancur, but if you want to stick to the good moments, I thought that through ball to Sonny was absolutely pinpoint. I thought that was brilliant, and I thought I thought when you're looking at our players, he was definitely one of the better players for us on that day, and I was quite impressed with him, and I'm excited to see what's going to come from him. I think that the 2 cameos we've seen from him have been really bright, and it was really nice and good to see him play 90 minutes, and you can see at the moment he's definitely our best performing midfielder.
Yeah, I think with a better partner next to him, he might be a bit better. I think next to Winks, who wasn't the most defensive in terms of winning tackles and stuff, if he had maybe with a Højbjerg next to him, or a Skip, he can be a lot more effective when he has a bit more help. And that's what we heard from the Juventus fans as well. He said he's really good, but he needs help next to him. And maybe he didn't really have that with Winks. Yeah,
only there was one moment in there from Bentancur that was doing the rounds on social media where I think he picks up the ball and then slips and it goes straight to...
he still found Winks with it.
Oh, he still found Winks with it.
He just slipped, yeah. There you go.
All right, well, that is the first takeaway. Let's move on to the second takeaway, and that is try as you might.
So Kane and Son yesterday, I'm focusing just on them. Despite the fact that we didn't score a goal, and we despite the fact that our Wolves were defended really well, there are 2 main threats, and they tried their hardest to get us back in the game. And I really felt they were both of them together were kind of only one's really taking the game to Wolves, and unfortunately it didn't quite pan out. But when you look at Son, he had 3 shots with 2 on target. He had 4 key passes during the game. He had 1 dribble, and he also had 8 crosses, with 3 of them being accurate crosses throughout the game. You look at Kane's stats, he had 8 shots, he had 4 shots on target, and he had 3 dribbles and 1 key pass as well. So they did try really hard to get us back in the game, but unfortunately it wasn't enough. But the effort was there. They were trying things. You've seen games where we've been battered, and then you look at Kane and it's like no shots, and Son no shots, but this was a bit different.
Yeah. I mean, when you're looking at it, I think, fine, Son and Kane were finding moments and definitely trying their hardest to really push us on and kind of get that equaliser or get us back into the game at least. And they need help apart from them. It can't just be them 2 all the time. Lucas Moura, I thought, was terrible. Well, really bad. Had a really bad game, which has carried on like a bit of a constant theme with him recently. And from the midfield as well, I think they need help. So obviously there was that 1 through ball from Bentancur, but apart from that, I don't know if he really tried anything or really provided anything going forward. So yes, it's great to see Kane and Son still putting in these numbers even when we're putting in a terrible performance, but they need help from the rest of the team.
Definitely agree with that. And also with the wing backs as well, that if we had good wing backs that commanded attention, then we'd be a different team. But at the moment, I think the teams just look at our wing backs and say, just leave them, just concentrate in the middle, that's it, and it's working.
Yeah, and that's been a constant thing with especially Emerson, because they just don't care about him. No. They just don't care about him whatsoever.
And that's the bit even less. Problem. Yeah, it's such a problem.
Anyway, let's move on to the third takeaway, and that is dwindling goal threat.
So after so since Conte took over, apart from the game against Everton, which is his first game, we had 8 consecutive games where we had over 2 XG during the games, which means we were expected to score at least 2 goals a game from the chances we were creating, which I thought was quite impressive. Showed that the goal threat was very, like, we're creating lots and lots of chances under Conte, and from that point of view, it was pretty good. But since then, since those 8 games, we've now had 3 consecutive games where we've had under 2 xG, with 2 of them also having under 1, which is shows that those good quality chances are drying up. And yesterday we had 0.84 during the game. That's despite having 17 shots during the game. So to have only 0.84 expected goals from 17 shots shows the quality of chances we were really creating and how we were expected to score them. At the end of the day, you look at the how much trouble Sarr was, how much he was tested. It was only really the one save from Romero, and also it was a good save from Kane from when he had a decent chance. But apart from that, Wolves had like half the shots, yet Lloris was far more tested than Sarr, and that goes to show how easy it was for them to get a good quality chance compared to us.
When you look at the games that you're talking about in the last few games that haven't been as high XG to the previous ones that were, much higher in XG, what you're saying in two goals in XG a game. I mean, what's changed in terms of structurally and tactically and personnel-wise? What's the main differences here?
It's tough to put a finger on that immediately. I have to do a deep analysis on the big changes, but I would say first of all we had the Chelsea game where we had a lot of players missing, and you could probably we had changed formation and we were just outplayed. Southampton game. I guess maybe could you put it all down to Skip and Dyer? Probably not, but those are 2 players you definitely say are missing. In terms of structure,
to level of opposition.
In terms of level of opposition, you could definitely say, although we did play the likes of Liverpool in that run as well. So, and we also played we played Brighton and West Ham in the Cup as well. So those are top half teams, which we had over 2 XG against. So maybe it's a case of us being found out a bit. Managers have already been commenting about how they've noticed things that they've worked out about us. Bruno Laga saying after the game that he knows Tottenham like to play 2 in the middle, so they planned for that, and that definitely worked in the first 20 minutes.
Was talking about similar things as
well.
And
Hasenhüttl as well. But when it comes to what Bruno Laga was saying, it's true. They did outnumber us, and for the first 25 minutes, they dominated and got a 2-0 lead. We did react to that and change it, but unfortunately the damage was done by then. But maybe it's a case of either Conte having a rethink, or he continues with this formation with the hope that these players get better at it.
All right. Well, that's takeaway number 3. Number 4 is Conte's record.
So it's very similar to Mourinho's won a trophy at every club except for Tottenham.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, Conte has lost 2 consecutive home games and 3 consecutive games for the first time as a manager since 2009, which goes to show how difficult this job is compared to the other jobs he's had, and what level this team is at compared to the other teams he's managed. And what is it about Tottenham? Well, everyone comes to Tottenham in good shape, and then they come to Spurs and it's like they set all these records about the worst they've ever been. And look, hopefully it's one of few hard hurdles he's going to have to face, but Conte now going through personally one of his worst spells in recent history as a manager, which he's never. Look, that's 2009. That's how many years? 13 years. Yeah. Long time.
Three first time he's lost 3 losses on the bounce since then as well. I mean, Dr. Tottenham. It's Dr. Tottenham all over again, isn't it? I mean, Dr. Tottenham reveres its ugly head every so often, and there's another one right here. And you just got to hope that Conte can somehow galvanise this squad from now to the end of the season. Hopefully, in the summer, he'll get the kind of players he needs in through the door to help him do a proper job. But right now, he's fighting very much an uphill battle, isn't he?
And it just goes to show as well, because he had tough times at Inter before he turned it around. He had tough times at Chelsea before he turned it around, but never this tough apparently.
Yeah.
And now he's got probably the hardest task of his career at getting Tottenham back to where they were. Even at the latter ends of Poch, we have to get back to that, let alone anything else.
I know. It's very hard work ahead for Conte, that's for sure. And let's move over to the last and final takeaway, and that is a near fatal week.
So you go cast your mind back to beating Leicester 3-2 in stoppage time, and there after the end of that game we sit fifth, 1 point behind fourth with 2 games in hand, and everything looking good, everything like good position in the league. Even going to that Chelsea game thinking, all right, we can lose this game, it's like a bit of a free hit. But now we sit on the back of 3 consecutive defeats. We now sit 8th in the table, 5 points off top 4 with 3 games in hand. But now we sit 3 points behind Arsenal with the same games played. So all that advantage that we had built up and that good position we were in the league has been completely wiped out with 3 consecutive defeats. And now there's very, very little margin for error when it comes to first of all, the home games, and also we got to run 4 away games where we've got a cup game there as well. And there's very little margin for error if we want to keep pace, because all of a sudden, if we lose 1 or 2 of those games, all of a sudden we could start getting cut adrift, and that could be terrible. As long as the gap stays between 5 points or so, you can never rule out a late charge. But if the gap gets any bigger than that, all of a sudden you've got to start looking at maybe like top 6.
Yeah, I know, and that's the reason why I was so demoralised yesterday after the game, because as much as maybe we haven't been performing well this season, things have started to take an upturn under Conte, and we really looked after that Leicester game that Spurs are probably in pole position to finish in this top 4. 3 games later, we're probably looking like the least likely out of the West Ham, Man United and Arsenal get top 4 now.
And I'm sure it will change throughout the season.
Of course it's going to change, but I'm just saying right now in this moment in time.
I didn't think, because we've been pretty solid, even like under Conte, even when we haven't won games, we haven't put in defensive displays like we have in the past 2 games, and this has been a real eye-opener in terms of, okay, these players really are as bad as we thought they were. We thought maybe Conte had really found a new level and got into a mentality, but these last 2 games have shown us that maybe we got way too ahead of ourselves in terms of that assessment, and hopefully they can learn from it. It's been a very damaging last 2 games and a very damaging week in our season. And look, all is not lost just yet, but you know what? A few more defeats like this, and it could be.
Yeah, and when you're talking about these players, I mean, they really they do it to us every time. Whenever a new manager comes in, or whenever something changes at the club, they put in a few good performances, and you're like, oh, maybe they just needed a new manager to find their right position and all that. But unfortunately, lepers don't change their spots, and they always revert back to type. And yeah, it's hard to take, really. It really is.
It'd be a miracle if he can get over the line from now to the end of the season with these players, and then hopefully improve in the summer. That would be the perfect. But whether he can do that, time will tell.
He really is a magician.
Yeah,
he really
definitely.
But that is our 5 takeaways from the game against Wolves. Obviously a 2-0 loss at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Let us know what you thought of our takeaways, and also if we've missed anything out, please do put your takeaways in the comment section below. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.